everywhere I look, I only find help to single parents about how to parent well. But nobody says, how can you survive as a single parent?
Welcome to With You Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Tara, and we explore relationships and life transitions.
We're excited today to have a conversation with Emöke Tapolyai. Emöke lives in Budapest, Hungary. She's often speaking on television, on podcasts, and at international conferences. She speaks on relationships, faith, and hope.
We're so excited to have her here, mostly because she's also our dear friend. Please join us for a conversation with Emöke. Welcome. We're here with Emöke, and we're so excited to talk to you again from Hungary.
Yeah, it's been way too long.
Hello, everybody.
So we have gotten the good fortune of getting to know Emöke in a few contexts. David has known her professionally in some conference settings, and as fellow therapists have shared a lot of information.
Yeah, and fun late night socializing, and just I learned how to do Hungarian fellowship, which is really interesting.
It's good.
It's very good.
And it lasts late into the night.
Finally, something fun.
Yes.
I need that in my life.
Yeah, and we got to spend some months living in Hungary. So two of our 4 children were with us there and got to know Emöke personally, and we've been to her home and have gotten to know what a bograc is.
Yep.
Which is a Hungarian way of cooking in the backyard, and it's amazing. And so we've spent some good times together, and we've learned how many amazing things and thoughts you have to share too, which is why we invited you. Besides just spending time with you, it's a fun way to get to hear your story.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you.
We're wanting to invite you to share a little bit about kind of your parenting journey from starting, young, right? You were very young when you first had kids.
Yes, very young.
And starting together, parenting, and then kind of moving forward through time. If you could just tell us a story, we'll all get comfortable. I have a blanket here, and I'll just cuddle in. And
well, I will try to summarize it so you don't fall asleep.
Yeah, well,
I grew up in a Christian home, and I always dreamed about having a wonderful family, lots of children, and a husband that I will grow old with.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been praying for it for ever since I know I existed. I'm sure not then, but I have very early recollections of praying for a husband and a family. And I got married when I was 25. I married a Christian man. And I started to have children. At our first wedding anniversary was the day when we brought my first daughter home.
Oh, wow.
And so it was 26 when I had my first baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had 5 children, and I still have 5 wonderful children, 3 girls and 2 boys, because that's always something that they want to know. I mean, how many of it is boys and girls? So 3 girls and 2 boys, and I wouldn't exchange anything out of this. It's perfect. And they are pretty much about 2 years apart. Interesting that I every time I say I have 5 kids, I somehow in my heart there is suddenly a desire to say no, 6, because I actually lost my 4th child in a miscarriage. And it was a very painful experience that people thought that I already have 3 children. It's no big deal. For me, it was a deep grief. And I learned so much more about life and children and family at that time than I ever remember that I could have in any other way. It was a death for a very young woman. I had then, after I had 2 more children, so I have 6 children and 5 wonderful living.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful decision. I wanted every single one of them. I even wish I had more of them. I love a big, busy family house, and I love hearing them yelling at each other or running around. And even in the evenings when they were little, I just loved collecting their things. No, that's not true. Times I was like, get to bed as soon as possible, So no,
Yeah.
it's not
Sounds
as
familiar.
romantic, but
There's this.
in my heart, I loved it.
Yeah.
In my actions, sometimes I wish that you could just catapult. Is that what you call it when
Yeah.
you shoot yourself out
Yeah.
of an
Yeah.
airplane?
Catapult. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
that's
parachute.
Parachute, yeah. Anyway, just get out of here. I love shutting the door on them when they are in the car. And many times I thought only one click away from freedom, They all stuck in the car for a couple hours.
We have a saying that it's the days are long, but the years are short when you're parenting, especially young kids. It's just like, will this day ever end? And yet then the years go by really, really fast. And I think we've had those feelings of,
oh yeah,
just make it stop. Make the yelling stop, or the running in circles around the couch over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Again,
the freeze game. Wouldn't that be nice? It was true. They would freeze, and then you could take a nap or sit down with a coffee, and they would be still freezing.
Or
It doesn't work.
Today we're having a contest where we see who can be the quietest. The quietest one wins. See how long they'll play that game.
Yeah, they're smart. They realize what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you enjoyed it, but it wasn't always joy and sunshine.
It was reality, let's put it that
right.
way. It was a nice reality. What was the hard thing is that after my fifth child, our marriage just started to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 3 years old when we got divorced. And it was a very difficult time to have a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, 8, 10, 12, all little.
Wow.
And,
how old were you by then, Emöke? I can't
38,
do the math.
yes. I was about 38,
okay.
turning 39.
And 5 little kids.
So 5 little kids, and most of my family lived in America because we were refugees to America, and I was the one who returned, but the rest of my family stayed in America.
Mm.
So here I was in Hungary, my homeland, but actually the people who were closest to me, my family, were not here.
Mm.
It was a very, very difficult time. It was depression. It was a pretty severe depression. And the only thing that kept me alive was that I kept thinking about my children, what they need.
Mm.
And I often think they kept me alive. The responsibility that for them, I have to be able to survive. For them, I have to be able to go on. As a matter of fact, many times I said, their mental health and their future, their identity depends on how I resolve the issues that I'm going through right now.
Mm.
And many times I was even angry about this. I remember crying that, boy, I am not even allowed to die. This is not fair.
Yeah.
And I remember telling myself, oh, you're not allowed to die. You have 5 kids who depend on you.
Yeah.
And their mental health depends on you. And their future and future generations depend on you. No, you don't have the right. You would like to, but you don't have the right. So it was tough. It was really tough. I was tough with myself. I was, it was seemed like a never-ending story.
Yeah. So
it seemed like there is no way out. It's a dark, dark channel, and you just go through it. It's like a dark tube. You go in and there is no end.
Mm. And not a lot of light.
Nope. And I think people who go through divorce often experience the loss, the grief, even if they are angry at their husband or wife that they're divorced. They're still grieving. They are not just grieving the person, but they are grieving a friend. They are grieving a relationship. They are grieving a dream, a plan, a future. Many times still today, I have been divorced for 18 years now, but even today when I see an elderly couple holding hands or having coffee outside on the street and see them being together and talking to each other, my heart just hurts. It just crunch, just clinches. How do you say it?
Yeah.
Clenches.
Tightens, clenches.
Clenches. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. It tightens. Yes, because I feel like this is what I wanted, growing old together, and I will never have this. So it's 18 years later. It's still there. By now, it's not my husband, but it's the dream that we will grow old together.
Yeah, we have those stories just that kind of go on. Like when you were praying when you were a little girl for a husband and family, there was a picture of what that was, and then that changes.
Yeah, well, and I think it's really it hits a nerve with me too to think about grief being not just about losing a person, but losing a dream, as you did with the baby you lost, and we lost a couple as well. And I never met those babies, but you grieve what you imagined with them, and with the relationship that you lost with your husband. It's a grief over that lost friendship and the person, but also just that whole future is changed.
Yes.
And who was there to share the grief with? Because we know that's important rather than just holding on to it and pushing it down. But sharing, who was in your sphere? Your family was in America, in the U.S. Who was around to share the grief of that dream?
It is a very complex question, because there were many people who I thought would be there and weren't there. Suddenly, it felt like I had leprosy, stay away from me. I don't want to see you. I don't know what to do with you now that you got divorced as a Christian woman. Who are you? Are you going to take away my husband? Who are you? How are you a threat to me? How are you a threat to our church? How are you a threat to whatever? So in one part, there were those people that just re-wounded me over and over and over again for years, many years. I felt that. And there were those who came as a surprise to me. My family, but of course my family could support me on phone or in letters, because at that time, internet was just coming in. So it was more in correspondence that they supported me. And then what was really a blessing, that I had some friends from seminary who got together and collected money to take me and the children to America. And they organized 2 weeks when they just surrounded us with love and pampered me and pampered the children and had programs for us. And they just really gave us hands-on help. And those 2 weeks, till this day, we remember as one of the greatest treasures of our life.
Wow.
Because for 2 weeks, when I arrived at the airport, I got a list in my hand. They waited for us at the airport, and they gave me a paper, and it had a 2 weeks program. Every single thing has been planned. Who is doing our laundry? Who is going to take us shopping? Who is cooking? Who is taking us to dinner? Who is taking the kids to the golf course? Everything was included. And I think one of the biggest help was experiencing this love that was not questioning, was not interrogating, was just there and saying, whatever you're going through must be difficult, and we are here. If you want to talk with a coffee, let's have a coffee talk. If you just want to enjoy walk around or shopping or anything, let's do that. We are here to serve you. And it was real servanthood. So that was very helpful, and it was a new thing for me to see that we are supported with just real things in life rather than words and slogans and cliches.
Yeah, no kidding. I think words sometimes is what I hear is the most hurtful to people when they're going through something, like sometimes well-meaning, but that makes me think, what were some of the things that were said to you that were the most helpful? Sounds like the doing was the best, than just showing up and providing companionship, and that's an amazing gift. But what were some words that were said that were helpful to you, and some that maybe that were said that were really harmful?
Well, just so we end on a good note, I will start with the bad one. You know, I
It's a
like
good
hope,
idea.
so we
Yes.
cannot end on the bad note.
No, but my reason for asking is because I think that's a thing that a lot of people struggle with when they have somebody in their life who's going through a really hard time or a relationship breakup, and so to avoid saying the wrong thing, they sometimes stay away completely and don't say anything. But it's helpful to know sometimes what words that people say with good intentions that actually have harmful effects.
All right, so
Well,
let's start out with the bad part.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
let's start
Bad
that.
news,
I mean,
good news.
when people look at me and say, "But why did you marry him in the first place?" And I'm like, now I really not only am hurt, but I feel dumb too. How could I marry somebody? You know,
Yeah.
the other one, which was the most painful, and it was so painful that I was just really enraged. It just angered me so much when they asked me, why did you have so many kids with him? I mean, it is questioning the life of my children because I am divorcing. And how can you ask a question like that? And I think the most painful things that people said were the questions that were not about me, but about their curiosity. The things that they couldn't resolve, they asked me without paying attention of how am I going to feel. When people ask me about me, that wasn't painful because that was like, so how are you hanging in there? What can I do for you? Is there anything that would strengthen you? Or people would ask me, how can I pray for you? And I could see it in their eyes that it's not like, okay, it means I'm praying for you, bye. But when I could see that they're waiting for the answer, that was wonderful. One of the most, the deepest memories that I can put my hands on, and I think I think it's a turning point in my healing process after divorce, is when 2 years after the divorce, we came to America, when my friends and classmates and professors got together and just gave us this wonderful 2 weeks in America. I remember at the airport where they gave me the 2-week calendar or whatever you call it, you know, that this day, this is what we are doing.
That's amazing.
I looked at it and I saw that with one of my friends and my classmates, Pat, she's taking us into the mountains, into her cabin for 4 days. And I was like, what? We are in America and I'm going to be in a cabin for 4 days? I mean, 14 days, and out of 14, 4 is going to be in a cabin? This is dumb. In America, you're supposed to go and experience and city and shopping. And, you know, I thought that would be the best for me.
Yeah.
And we went up to the mountains and into the cabin. And the only car ever passed by was a postal car. Once a day, the postman came by, and that was all. Nobody, nothing, nowhere.
You had to have some quiet time.
Well, that's not what I didn't want.
Yeah, right.
That's what I didn't want.
Yeah.
I was, later on, I realized I didn't want a quiet time. I wanted to keep on doing so I don't feel the pain.
Yeah.
And I remember the kids were out in the woods, and I could hear them playing and laughing and singing and whistling and yelling. And I was out in the log cabin with Pat sitting on a porch swing, having coffee. And I started talking, which is not unusual. And I asked Pat, I said, Pat, 2 years has passed, and still the only thing I can think about or talk about is my divorce. And I'm a counselor, but I don't understand why. I have no clue. 2 years. I should be over it by now. And Pat, with her gentleness, didn't say anything. She just sipped from her coffee and she said one word, one sentence. Nobody has validated your feelings. And bang, that was it. In that minute, she validated all my feelings. I remember the feeling of this whole cold air going through me, cleansing me through. And suddenly I was relieved. I felt like this is freedom. I'm getting there. And I remember for the rest of the 2 days that we were still there, I just walked up and down out in the woods and down the driveway, and I'm thinking, validated, validated. That's the only one word, validated. And I left that log cabin healed because somebody looked at me and said, nobody has validated you.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah.
It was powerful.
That's amazing.
Well, and it sounds like she slowed you down to sit with her and be validated. So there's that two pieces to that, right? You were running, staying busy, and of course you had to. You're a mom of 5 kids, and you have to keep them dressed, fed, alive, going to where they need to be going. You had to be working, so there was plenty to distract. And she just,
and financially support them.
Yeah. What a wise friend. I think that's a lot of people's MO. It's definitely mine. Stay busy. It won't catch up with you. And when you slow down, there's time to let it catch up with you, especially when you're with somebody who can listen. That's amazing.
And you were feeling, and she was like, yep, I see you. I see what you're going through. And yeah, this is hard. And she just sat with you.
Yeah, she didn't say, oh, yeah, because your husband is a jerk. She didn't say, oh, because you are so overwhelmed with yourself, get out of your pit. None of those things. No comment. Just the only thing that is the truth.
Yeah.
Nobody has validated your feelings.
Yeah.
And that was enough to be validated. That was enough.
And so as we think,
I think most people, that's what we need. Not only in divorce, but when we go through conflict and anger, one of the first things we need to have is somebody who validates us. And many times we are eager to go on because we are so overwhelmed, over conscious about forgiving, and we want to run into forgiveness. But you cannot forgive without having your anger validated.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's about that deepest human need, just of being understood, right? I think being misunderstood is one of the most painful things. And she didn't have to have any special skill to validate you. She just listened and spoke out loud.
Oh, she was a counselor, so she had.
She had the skill. But she
didn't use any trick, any technique. She just said the truth.
Just listened.
Nobody has validated you.
Yeah.
She answered my question. She didn't have a separate agenda. I said, Pat, how come I'm stuck? How come I'm stuck? Why? And she said, because nobody validated you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And the ability to not try to make sense of it, to argue, right? Like we tend to problem solve, even therapists sometimes, and people in the church, we want to know the why and solve the problem. And neither of that was helpful for you as a single mom, of trying to figure out why or provide you a solution, like here's a 5-step program within the church to help you navigate this. It was like, no, I see you, you're hurting, and I'm going to be with you. And
what is also very interesting about it, what you're saying just reminded me that one of my friends, also back from school, she asked me, how can I help? And I remember saying to her, everywhere I look, I only find help to single parents about how to parent well. But nobody says, how can you survive as a single parent? I said, please help me find something that would give me some ideas of how to survive this. I'm doing my best with my children, but just give me something that says not single parenting of how to parent, but single parenting of how to survive.
Yeah.
And even the books that are out there, still, the majority talks about this is how you do it for your kids' sake.
Yeah.
Well, I did everything because I love them. But in the meantime, I felt like I am not doing well. And somebody, would you please help me? And I remember this friend of mine, she wrote me a letter. She said, Emöke, I have been looking for 2 weeks. I have been looking all over. There is no such literature at that time. There was no such literature that would take care of the single parents. after divorce, parents
Mhm.
after divorce, of how to survive, how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
And
can just say you've been doing this for a long time as a single parent now, and we've had the pleasure of meeting your children, and I just want to say they're some pretty incredible people. I think you've done a lovely job being their sole parent these last 18 years, and they're just incredible souls. We
And
had one of them staying in our house, so we've seen her in all sorts of situations, and she's a lovely person. So just how has that been for you as a single parent, not finding that kind of resource to help you grow yourself beyond just the role of your parent? What did help you in these last 18 years? What have you found that's helped you stay grounded yourself and stay connected to friends who are living a different life?
one of the major discoveries that I had at the beginning of being a single parent was when I was struggling of how am I going to help my girls. That was pretty clear. I know how to be a girl. I mean, I was one. So I kind of can relate to them. But how am I going to be a dad, a man to my boys? So how can I give them a father and be a boy, a man to them? And I tried wrestling, but
I can't picture that.
I can. I bet you totally won in wrestling. I know.
did try. It turned into tickling, and they still won. So it didn't feel good. It just didn't feel like I can do it because I felt that this is not me.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to somebody about this, and as we were talking, this idea came to me that I don't have to be mom and dad. I don't have to be two in one. Because if I'm two in one, I'm neither. So if I am both mom and dad, a woman and a man for them, then they will not have a mother. They will not have the woman. And I said, all I have to be is mom. And maybe they will have less of a father, lesser of a father. I mean, they kept contact and they still keep contact with their father, but and they have a pretty good relationship with their father. It's a distant relationship, but a good relationship. But I thought to myself, what a trap it would be if I would try to raise them as a mom and a dad. It's okay to be just a mom.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, I can let go, and God will take care of it. And even when they were growing up, occasionally they said to me something about having it difficult, that they don't have a father like some of the people that they've seen that they wanted to have. And I would tell them, yes, I'm sorry about it. It is something that is the reality of your life, but then you have a wonderful mother.
So let's think about what we're thankful for.
A loving mother who is there and doing everything for you. And I did tell them that they see reality. I didn't want them or myself to see as a victim. And maybe that's the other thing is I early on, I noticed that sometimes people can connect by feeling sorry, but it's also a trap. I remember very early, almost couple weeks after my divorce, I remember I put the children down to bed and they were all asleep, and house put it back in order, and I cannot fall asleep because I'm still grieving. And I remember sitting on my couch and thinking, I cannot go on feeling grief and sorry for myself. If I start to own the identity of the poor mother of five, poor single mother of five, that will actually victimize my children, because they will be the reason of my poverty, my poorness. So I said, nah, that would be a very false identity. I don't want ever them to feel that because of them, I am poor single mother. So I remember when I decided that no, It is something that I agreed, and I loved their father, and I married because of a decision, and I divorced because of a decision. I own the responsibility for both decisions. I wanted every single one of them. I own it. It is my decision. It is my desire. So I'm going to stick to it rather than being a victim. And I really think it is part of my freedom because I believe I am free.
Yeah. And you are, from that freedom, you're able to identify a lot of the traps. I really appreciate you talking about all these subtle traps that come out of trying to be really helpful or trying to replace kind of pain and things missing. But the trap of that is you lose more than you gain in trying to do those things. And you have this wisdom of moving. I do want to make sure we don't step in one of the traps of we kind of lean back in talking about the kids again. And I want to kind of loop back. I think Tara and I do to how, because I know you, and the best part of your parenting is modeling. It's not just doing things to and for your kids, but it's you doing it in your life as a model for them. And so getting back to this, everything was about the kids, or focusing on the kids, of what resources, what internal, what external, what community resources did you eventually find in helping you be a single mom and meeting the needs that you had as a single mom, not in a role as a parent, but as a woman that's having to work, having to raise kids, and the resources there for you?
Nothing.
All right. Well, moving on.
Let's go on. Next question. That was a quick one.
I don't know. That's painful. I mean, that hurts to even hear that and say that.
I did not really have a church community that stood by me. I had some Christians who went out of their way to support me and to listen to me, and some of them drove for hours to stand by me. I had a few friends that were constant, that did not change. In many ways, they reminded me of God's love that doesn't change. But the rest of it, I realized that I had to come up for myself of what are the things that refresh me. And I haven't been able to go down to a river and have a big drink. All I was able to do is collect raindrops and have a few raindrops every single day. And actually, I still have a list of things that refresh me.
What are those?
I started, sorry?
What are the? I'd like to hear what those are. Is it your runs? I know you run now. Is it refreshing?
I run, but one of the things is sitting in the morning and not getting running right away. I mean, not running, but not getting the day going, but having 10 minutes with my coffee and looking out the window. One of the things is just bird feeding. It sounds so boring, but for a single mother of 5, looking out the window and seeing the birds just feeding and flying and coming back and counting them, it's just like totally calming me down. Sometimes just planting flowers and digging in the garden and weeding. I love weeding. Early in the morning, I get my coffee, go out and start weeding. Man, that's beautiful. You know why? Once you pull it out, it's gone.
But they keep coming back.
Tara and I were looking at each other going, we can help you out. We're willing to care for
far away.
We're willing to care for your soul by letting you weed our garden.
I was there this summer and I looked at the college and seminary's garden and I thought, would they get upset if I started weeding? It would refresh me so much.
Oh, I'm sure they would have let you.
But, sometimes just listening to music that I like, really little things.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned is to have ice cream myself. Because
I love that.
what I used to do, because of budget and because of paying attention to the kids, most of the time I would buy them ice cream. But when I desired it, I didn't. So one of the things I learned that in order to survive, sometimes I need to do little pleasures for myself, just like an ice cream cone. Yeah. And
what's your favorite? What's your favorite flavor?
strawberry or raspberry.
Berry ice cream.
It's a fruit girl. Yeah.
Yeah, very fruit. But the mixed with a little chocolate is always.
You're speaking David's language.
You can't go wrong with chocolate.
Nah, well, chocolate with raspberry or any fruit. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
perfect combination. But just little things. I mean, sometimes I paint. Sometimes I just arrange things around the house. One of the things that I was able to do, because I was on a very low budget, because I was supporting them alone, was I had 4 different boxes for each season, and changed just a few decoration around the house based on the boxes. But because of it, every season I had a new home.
Mm-hmm.
I had a new fun. And one of the things that really refreshed me is we sleep under the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. Just little things, nothing major. People think that refreshment comes from something major and expensive. And actually, it's the little, almost not just inexpensive, but free moments. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I feel up from.
I love the way you talked about it as catching raindrops. I love that, because sometimes we think we won't survive without that big drink. But we can catch a raindrop and it keep us going till the next one. I love that picture.
Yeah. Yes. And actually, one of my favorite things is going out on a misty day. I love soft rain or mist and just having it fill my face. That's really just washes everything away from me. Most people hate it and they cannot hold it when I say, oh, I love it. And they look at me like, you are weird. I'm like, so what's new?
Yeah. Embrace the weirdness too. That's right. One of our life mottos.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to think about whether it's coming alongside someone, or if you're in that position of being single, being a single parent, of where can I find these refreshing, where can I find these flourishing moments? And it might be a moment because the rest of it's pretty hard. But that's enough to get through the day. I think that's a word of encouragement. Before we move on, there's one other question I have of how did you manage work and 5 young kids? You're saying from 3 to 12. The ages of the kids when you were divorced and you're financially having to support. I'm curious, wrapping my head around that of the resources and logistics and community to help that happen. Because I mean, we only have 4 kids and there's 2 of us and we're barely functioning. Honestly,
I don't know. I had 2 full-time jobs. And the 2 full-time jobs were 160 kilometers, which is over 2 hours drive away from each other. And I carried those 2 jobs, and many times I stayed up all night or slept 2-3 hours a night and cook at night for them, because actually it's cheaper to cook than to go to a restaurant or order food. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think the one thing that kept me going was they deserve it. I love them. Yeah. I want to do it for them. And, if you don't whine, you actually have quite a lot of energy.
I try to tell my kids that all the time.
Honestly, the minute I start whining, I mean, it might trigger some help from the other side or might not. Yeah. But whining takes out a lot of energy. Yeah. So instead of, why is this for me? This is not how I dreamed about it. You need to go through that. That's the grieving phase. Right. But, you cannot stay in it. You cannot be stuck in it. Yeah. So, after a while, I just kept saying, okay, instead of why, my favorite question has become how. This is a creative, optimistic question. Yeah. And where I lived, there is a river going around the city. I don't live there anymore, but I used to live in Emöke Tapolyai. Try to say that one.
We're not even going to try.
Nope. The river.
And it was 7 kilometers. I don't even know how many miles is 7 kilometers, but not many. 7 kilometers is
about
maybe
4 miles.
4 miles, 5 miles away from my workplace. And interestingly enough, the river went around the town and the area in a way that I had to cross a bridge when I left home to work. And before I arrived to work, I also had to cross a bridge. So I had a road 5 miles to make between two bridges. And I remember I felt like there is no place I can cry. I cannot cry in front of my kids because that would weaken them. I don't want them to see me suffer. And I also felt like I cannot cry at work because I cannot overwhelm it's not where it belongs to. But I needed a place to let my pain out. So I crossed the bridge and I said, nobody can see me now. So I started crying. And when I saw the next bridge coming, I said, okay, work is approaching. Start pulling yourself together, wipe off your face. Nobody will see. 5 minutes driving, 10 minutes driving, nobody will see. Honestly, promise. I mean, unless you overdo it. But before I crossed the bridge, I stopped crying. And on the way home, from bridge to bridge, it's actually something that I often say to my clients, bridge to bridge. It means you allow yourself to cry, to complain, but you know when to stop.
Yeah.
And that really has helped me, giving me energy in how to manage work and the kids and all that. That I had a place to just get it off, and also was obligated. I made myself to also stop it.
One of our good friends, Barrett McRae, he and I were just talking about suffering, and he used this good picture. It's kind of like the bridge to bridge idea of it's good to pitch a tent there in our grief and our suffering, but it's not good to build a house there. Like it's temporary, but not to be kind of always whining or always suffering or always, and that's what you're talking about, of this, there's space for it, and then there's space for living, and needing to have both of those.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you're going through such a disappointment and grief and pain and readjustment, and everything is just overwhelming, as when it comes to divorce, and especially divorce with children, it's very easy to get sucked in by self-pity and complaining and being angry and grieving. I mean, it can really pull you down.
But if you have someone that's there with you, validating it, giving you space, it doesn't keep you under, in terms of pulling you down.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with your quote that whining takes too much energy. So if we just whine a little less, we'll have a lot more energy for the day. I'm going to remember that one.
Yeah. Any last words to single moms, single dads as we wrap up our time?
One is that all you have to be is who you were created to be. You don't have to be two in one. And you need to take care of yourself. It's not only about your kids. It's your kids will be healthy when you are healthy. And if you're not healthy, no matter what you do for them, there is no health they can copy. They are not surrounded with health. So although everything seems like it is primarily about the kids, it is not true. It's primarily about you, because if you're well, they will do that. They will experience it, and they will be okay too. And also, maybe I would definitely want to mention that this too shall pass. And now that my kids are grown, adult, mature people, well, the mature is, let's put it in quote.
No, I think we can support you. They're
having them coming home, and having my granddaughter home, and having the family around, and having now a common-based relationship, adults around you. It's beautiful. I look back and I say, oh, it did worth it. It did worth it. If I wish I knew it then, how wonderful it will be now. Then I could only hope. So it might give you strength to know that one day this too shall pass, and if you're healthy, good chance that they will be too. And maybe one more word here about single parenting. This is really not the end of the world. I mean, there is a lot that we are missing out on, but really, if we learn how to grieve it, and we need to overcome the whole thing. This is not our identity. I am not the divorced woman. I'm a lot more. That's not my whole identity. And I refuse to identify as Emöke, the divorced woman. I am Emöke, the mother, the friend, the psychologist, the gardener, the weeder, the goofy one, the friend to be with in the evening and have fun with. I am so many other things than just a divorced woman. So it's not a good identification. We are a lot more than divorced people.
Yeah, you are to us. We love you, and we love all the time we get to spend with you. So thank you for your story. We will be back for more. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. I think we're just touching the tip of the iceberg of all the wisdom you have to share. So thank you for taking the time this evening.
Well, thank you for having me here. Thank you.